Imagine being trapped in a suffocating sea of people. The heat, the dust, the noise. A crowd is surging forward, and in the middle of it all, a woman is desperately shoving her way through the crush of bodies, trying to stay completely hidden. Every person she brushes against puts her in immediate physical danger. Under the strict laws of her society, her medical condition makes her ritually impure. Nearly touching another person risks public humiliation or worse, but she refuses to retreat. She is tracking a specific rabbi walking just ahead of her. She has convinced herself that if she can just close the distance and graze the fabric of his clothing, she will be healed. What happens next is a collision that will tear right through centuries of rigid legal codes. This nameless outcast is about to trigger a chain reaction that proves divine grace operates far outside the boundaries of human law. Looking at this image of the rocky shores of the Sea of Galilee, it's easy to picture the historical setting. Jesus just stepped off a boat, and instantly a desperate crowd swarms him, begging for miracles. For 12 long years, the woman hidden in this crowd has suffered from a relentless hemorrhage. She has exhausted every resource she had, spending all her money on ancient medical treatments that only left her in more pain and even worse off than before. Her physical pain was compounded by a rigid legal code. Looking at this ancient Torah scroll, Leviticus 15 classified her bleeding as perpetual uncleanness. Therefore, anyone she touched became legally defiled, forcing her to live absolutely isolated from family, synagogue, and community. Every human system had failed her. Medicine left her broke, and the law left her isolated. Pushing into this dense crowd was an act of ultimate desperation, risking severe punishment for one final chance at restoration. She closes the final few feet, reaching out a trembling hand from behind. But she doesn't grab a random piece of fabric. She specifically targets the bottom edge of the rabbi's cloak. In first-century Jewish culture, a rabbi wore a tallit. As seen on this modern example, the corners feature specific fringes called betzitzit. These represented God's authority. Ancient texts called these corners wings, recalling Malachi's prophecy that the Messiah brings healing in his wings. Her target was precise. By reaching for the fringe, she was making a calculated, active claim on Jesus' identity and his specific authority as the Messiah. She was after sozo, a Greek concept describing a total rescue. This touch was meant to save her entire life, not just stop the bleeding. The second her fingers secure their grip on the hem, the 12-year nightmare ends. The bleeding stops instantly, and she feels the illness leave her body. Instantly, Jesus halts the surging crowd. He turns and demands, "Who touched my clothes?" His disciples are baffled, pointing out that dozens are pressing against him from every direction. Under the strict purity laws, the touch of a bleeding woman should have immediately defiled Jesus. Instead, a total systemic reversal occurs. His holiness flows outward to cure her, overpowering the flow of impurity. Jesus didn't stop the crowd to expose a lawbreaker or hand out a punishment. He stopped because he refused to let her slip away back into the shadows as an anonymous, cured outcast. He wanted a relationship. Knowing exactly what had just happened to her body, the woman steps out of the crowd. Trembling with fear, she falls at Jesus' feet and confesses the entire truth in front of everyone. The crowd would expect a revered rabbi to recoil in disgust upon realizing he had been touched by someone ritually unclean. Instead, Jesus looks down at her with absolute compassion. Then, he addresses her with a single, highly specific word: daughter. In all the recorded scriptures, this is the only time Jesus ever uses this intimate, familial term to speak directly to a woman. This radical inclusion defined how the early church understood Jesus. We see that impact here, in a 4th century Roman fresco showing Christ healing the bleeding woman, proving how deeply this relational shift resonated with 1st century believers. With that one word, her restoration is complete. Her social, emotional, and spiritual identity was permanently rewritten. She went from being a cursed outcast to a chosen child of God. You might be walking through your own exhausting season right now. Maybe you feel drained by a relentless struggle, or completely isolated by the heavy burdens you carry day after day. In calling her daughter, Jesus proved that the labels given by the world, impure, bankrupt, or forgotten, are powerless in his presence. Because he anchored her identity in his own family, the circumstances of her 12-year past were instantly overwritten. This means human suffering or social isolation does not dictate your final identity. Jesus' sovereign protection is not reserved for people with perfect lives. It is available right now to anyone with desperate, unwavering faith. You can mirror the bravery of the woman in the crowd. You can step out of the shadows, push past your internal doubts, and actively reach out to anchor yourself to the grace of God. If you are ready to reach out in faith and claim His sovereign protection over your life today, type Amen in the comments if you believe.